everybody, and welcome to Release the Fans, Emerald City Hockey's podcast involving you, the fans. Just a quick reminder that if you want to be the subject, lucky interviewee, I still don't know what we're guest. That's probably the appropriate term if we're thinking right. If you want to be the guest on one of these, you can check us out on patreon.com/Emerald City Hockey. All Terror of the Deep tier member patrons are put into a random lottery at the beginning of each month where we draw a name and voila, you end up here on Release the Fans. This month, and link to that in the description below, of course. This month, we're all very, very fortunate because that random lottery gave us someone who is pretty legendary throughout the Seattle Kraken fandom on places like Twitter. You'll find them in our post-game live chats where they're coming up with stuff like the Germen Gentlemen nickname, as we all know, the most infamous of all player nicknames for the Seattle Kraken, where you got the awesome Carson Soucy game-worn jersey at the end of last season. That was like another legendary moment for so much of the fandom as you finally got out there to see the Seattle Kraken in person, got to see Philip Grubauer, got to get that Carson Soucy jersey. And if people listening haven't guessed already, I'm of course talking about Maya Midaeros on the socials. How you doing, Maya? It's great to have you here.
I'm doing pretty good. I was hoping my cat wasn't going to make an appearance, but it's like cold.
I was hoping your cat
cue.
was going to make an appearance. Yeah. This is great.
Yeah, so he's here. He's cold. He's very fluffy because he's, I guess, trying to conserve body heat. And so he's been my companion.
Aren't we all?
Let's go. Shout out to what's the cat's name? We got
His name is Doc.
Doc, let's go.
Dr. Bathieu.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Hello, Maya. Hello, Doc. This is so great already.
I know.
You couldn't ask for a better start.
Nope, we're keeping that intro for sure now. So just gonna kick things off with like a kind of a easy question, I hope, anyway. And that's just, how did you get into hockey? How'd you become a fan? How'd you end up a Seattle Kraken fan? And also, by the way, love the shirt. Love repping the ECH merch, by the way. RJ got better at it this time around.
There we go.
Yeah, I wear this a lot. So me getting into hockey is kind of like a two-part answer. Mm-hmm. So there's like one part of it, which is that I'm like a huge romance novel reader. That's like basically all I do is I read romance novels. And my favorite subgenre of romance novels is weirdly hockey romance. I don't know where that came from. But I just started getting into hockey romance. And then my best friend is a Canucks fan. She's been a Canucks fan for years. And so she's always been talking about hockey. And I was like, I don't actually care about this hobby of yours, but good for you. And then they announced that Seattle was going to be getting a hockey team. And I think they announced the team in like 2018. And I hadn't been home in like 5 years. And as of like last October, I hadn't been home in like almost 10 years. So I said, okay, when Seattle gets a hockey team, I'm going to start watching hockey. Maybe like this is my new journey and I'm going to become a hockey fan. And I was getting really homesick. And October 12th, 2021 was literally the first time that I'd ever watched a single second of hockey. And it has become my entire personality, much to the annoyance of my friends and family, because it's all I talk about.
Hockey has a weird way of kind of consuming all of us. I feel like it's one of those things. And even, I'm telling you, when you try to get out, it's got a way of pulling you back in. Like once it's there for life.
I can't, like, everything like comes back to hockey. Like my boss will be like, what are you doing? And I'm like, there's like a hockey game tonight. She thinks it's adorable that I just like decided to get into hockey at like 27 years old. And they're just like, this is me now. This is who I am. So literally everything, like my desk, I have like a Philip Grubauer Funko Pop. I have a puck of Philip Grubauer. I have a motivational poster that I made of Yegor Chinnikov.
Let's go.
On the side of my desk. Like everything about me is to do with hockey now.
That's so awesome. I love that. And I love that the Seattle Kraken were able to kind of introduce so many people to the sport by coming in and being a new team and being a new team in, Seattle area. It's a big city. It's produced a lot of people, even if they're not still in Seattle. Right. And I absolutely love that. And then I got to know from the romance side of things, because I have like a tiny bit of experience in the hockey romance novel world.
Okay, well,
yeah, I know.
That's going to be my question for later. What
is
is that?
I can bring it up now. It's just that when I was at the 2013 Sports Management Worldwide Conference, where I ultimately ended up getting the job with the Portland Winterhawks to start my scouting career and all of that. I was 18 at the time. I was in New York. The woman I sat next to throughout that conference was actually there, and she was a hockey romance novel author. And she had taken the hockey GM and scouting course just to kind of better learn the inner workings of a team and how front offices work and how they deal with players and stuff, so that she could better write her novels. And I cannot for the life of me, all these years later, remember her name and remember
Was her
like
name
which
Rachel.
Book. It might have been. That sounds a little.
There's like a couple like authors that are big with like romance writing.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Just like you, do you have a favorite you want to shout out for anybody who might be interested in maybe checking this out a little bit?
Yeah. So there's Serena Bowen, and then there's Rachel Reed, and then someone named Avon Gale. They write romance novels, and those are the books that I kind of like go back to as like comfort reads. I'm just like, I just need to. I literally, that's all I do. Like if I'm sad, I'm reading romance novels. If I'm happy, I'm reading romance novels. I don't read anything else. It's like the entirety, like that's like the other side of myself is like my Twitter is like hockey. And then sometimes I'll just be like, look at this weird thing happening in like the romance community, which I'm sure is like bizarre, but I have found some like overlap now. I have some friends who are like into both. So I'm like, great.
There you go. Yeah, that's what it's all
good.
about.
And there's some good recommendations for anyone who might be getting into it the opposite way, watching this because they're into hockey and maybe wants to get into romance novels, and that'll be a way to do it. I got a question about that too. Like, how accurate, is kind of the hockey that's portrayed in there? I guess it sounds like from what Dylan said, they're writers that really want to kind of go in depth to learn, how all the hockey works so they can write it accurately. But like, what have you found as far as like the accuracy and how in depth it goes? I mean, you got player on LTIR that leads to some storyline, you got to explain the details of that.
So I think Serena Bowen is kind of just like a tie-in, but Rachel Reed she's been a Habs fan since she was a little girl, and you can tell that she loves hockey and that she like lives and breathes hockey. I think she's a Devils fan now, but like when you read her books, like even if they're not like super like on ice focused, you can tell that she really 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 cares about hockey, which is actually really cool to see as like going back and reading them where I'm like, okay, I can see it even more now that like this is a legitimately care about and know about.
Right.
That's good. I'm sure it adds to that, too, especially if you know the sport. So I guess, on to kind of our next question. It kind of, segues into this really, but like, I guess tell us a little bit about your style of being a fan, because that's one thing I've noticed in following your Twitter and interacting with you as a fan, following the player personalities. I mean, the nicknames, the German Gentlemen, that's the kind of thing that a lot of hockey fans just wouldn't come up with. It's just kind of uniquely you. But like, tell us about that style.
So I'm a huge vibes person. I didn't really care about sports until like I want to say like 2016, and I started watching the Saints, and so now like the Saints are my team for football, and I'm just like all about the vibes. Like I just want to know, like, do I like this player? Does this player like make me feel good about the sport? And especially getting into hockey, I didn't know anything about like the analytics side. So the morning of October 12th of last year, I was like, okay, I can't go into this completely blind. I'm going to go look at the roster, and that's my guy that I'm going to look for when he's on the ice. So I have at least a little bit of something. And obviously, like the only person that you can probably tell is a huge vibes person is Brandon Tanev. So Brandon Tanev is like my first player that I really latched onto. So I don't do a lot of analytics. Like I'll look up analytics mostly so I can be correct in arguments with people. But I'm huge on like, how is the team playing? Like, what does it look like when they play? Do they look like they're playing slow? Do they look like they're playing fast? Do they look like they're spending a lot of time in the offensive zone? Like, especially when it's like listening to like RJ or like Allison Lucan talking about like shot quality. And sometimes it'll be like, yeah, but like that shot really didn't look like it. Like, yes, it looked like a low danger shot, but then when you actually look at it and like the play developing around it, I don't know how the goalie was supposed to know that was going to go in. Like that was just a ridiculous, sequence of events. And so I'm huge on just how does it feel? That's kind of all I get. And I just want to be like supportive. I don't like to do things that make me unhappy. And so like, I just try and focus on all the good stuff about what's happening. And so like, even when we're losing 7 to the Colorado Avalanche and like John Buccigross is eating chicken parm on the broadcast, I'm just like, I'm having a great time because I'm making jokes with my friends.
Right. No, and I gotta say that is, as someone who's been in hockey for a long time, that attitude is so like refreshing and welcome, and that's been like honestly one of my favorite parts about doing this, and about approaching things with a newer franchise, with a newer fan base as well, is just people coming in like you who are taking that more positive approach, who are bringing in kind of this new life, I feel, to the NHL that had kind of largely gone away. I think hockey fans for a long time, especially like this century, have found a way to get pretty bitter as you know, the NHL viewership, right? The numbers, everything kind of falls off. It disappeared for a long time nationally onto some obscure cable satellite station called Versus for a while. ESPN wasn't talking about it. Like hockey was in a low point for a good little while there, and a lot of the fans were, you know, they didn't have that kind of positivity. And I feel like through teams like Vegas, Boo Hiss, I know, and through Seattle, you've introduced all these new people to the sport, like yourself, that are kind of approaching it with a different kind of air about them, and bringing in that positivity, and, you know, talking about the vibes. That's something I'm all about, obviously, California boy, right? And I think that stuff is important, and I think that building up players like a Brandon Tanev, or as we get to know the players through having social media now, I think has helped a lot too, where we can see their personalities. I really think that's huge, and it's kind of, you know, this shot in the arm that I feel like the NHL really needed. And I do believe, and I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you, but I do believe that fans such as yourself are really a big part of that. And I think it's going to really help the NHL rebound as a whole, now that they are back on ESPN and things are kind of trending in a right direction for them.
And it is nice to see, like, watching games, because even when we were losing, like, there's always something that I can pick out a game and be like, that was going really well, or like there was that horrible losing skid, and it was like, okay, but like our penalty kill was amazing, and we got to like talk about how much effort and growth they've made with that. So I just try and find like what's something that I can do to not have this make me feel like the worst person, because if you let yourself feel like that, you're gonna feel like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it is very nice to have people like you on the Twitter timeline, so it's not just endless negatives as you're scrolling and
I'm glad
scrolling.
people enjoy it, because sometimes I'm like, maybe this is a little bit too much. Some people don't like it, but I'm like, I just got to do me. I got to be. This is all I know how to be.
Yeah, no.
And
go for it.
I will say, I mean, you know, growing up as a Sharks fan, I did allow myself to feel bad more often than I should have, you know, at some of the things going on. And I just, like, I want to say I appreciate kind of the perspective that you've brought, because also growing up as a fan, I'd say like my main approach to being a fan was like asset management. You know, I was a wannabe GM, and so vibes were not really something I looked at, you know, at all until more recently. And I'm grateful to you for helping me see that, because it is such an important part of the game. And I think it's also really helps our coverage too, like opening that up to where now being there every day, and I see like, you know, Yanni Gord with giving Susie a stare down for you know, getting a shot in practice just a little bit too high and catching that little look or whatever. I wouldn't have thought twice about that kind of thing, but now I see it and now I enjoy it, and it brings me, you know, so much joy in just doing my coverage.
Yeah, and I like it. I like that. I think that especially as a team where we weren't doing so hot last season, that it made, like, one of the things that made me really happy was when they were doing those like end of season like wrap up interviews, and so many of the players talked about how we're losing 7 to the Colorado Avalanche, and they get like that one goal, and Climate Pledge Arena just like explodes because they're just like happy for the team in that moment. Like, that's the kind of fan base I want to be. I want to be the fan base where it's just like, yes, it's not going great, we're still having a good time, we still love these, we're not going to give up on them.
Yeah, no,
And that
it's
reputation travels, let me tell you. Like even some of the newer media people coming in this season, like from, say Chicago or other places mentioned, like they knew about that story with the Avs game. They're like, yeah, no, word travels. Like we know how the fans are. It's really cool.
Yeah, I
yeah,
love that about us.
yeah, no, it is absolutely awesome. Got to ask about the nicknames. Like that's not an easy thing to do. Come up with good nicknames, and especially nicknames that then stick with people. What's your secret? I got to know.
I don't know where it came from. I just I've tried to look. I don't like I think I can find like maybe the first tweet, but it's really hard to I have no clue where that nickname came from. Um but it's kind of just whatever just like comes to you organically and just feels right and then you just keep going for it. Like every time someone will mention it, I'd be like, "Oh, you mean the German gentleman? Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
Philip Grubauer, the German gentleman? That's that's what we're talking about." And then people would, use and they'd be like the German gentleman. I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's a great nickname." And I just didn't let it die.
Hey, that's the way you got to approach it. What's been my like philosophy so far this season, RJ? Speak it into existence, right?
Yep.
I really believe that. So speaking of the German gentleman, you seem to have a pretty strong connection with not just the Kraken goaltenders, but goaltenders in general around
Yeah,
the
I love
league.
goalies.
Enlighten someone like me, some non-goaltending stooge.
Goalie hater.
What makes goaltenders so amazing? What is it that I'm missing out on?
Goaltenders have I think objectively, I not even subjectively, goaltenders have the hardest job on the ice. In an ideal game, the goaltender's out there for a full 60 minutes. Like a player takes a penalty, like yeah, Carson Soucy's just like sitting in the box for like 2 minutes. Martin Jones is fighting for his life out there. like a penalty is like a goalie punishment, and they take all of the heat from the fan base for like every single goal, regardless of what the goal actually looks like. I just think that they need more love because they're like literally the only players that are really out there for like the entire time.
Yeah. No, it's one of those things where it's like your entire job is to like always be perfect, and the moment you're not perfect for just 1 second, it's on your stat sheet, everyone's seen it, and oh, by the way, this big red light's gonna go off right behind you. Everyone's gonna stare at you, there's gonna be a spotlight right on you, and then a bunch of people are gonna start either cheering or booing depending on where you're at, and everyone's gonna let you know that for half a second you weren't doing your
like,
job.
Or chanting your name.
Yeah, or chant, and when it's going bad, and it's like, oh, the defense isn't playing well. Well, that's like 6 guys that you can say like, Larson's not playing well, Soucy's not playing. Like you kind of have to like spread it out. When the forwards aren't scoring, that's 12 guys like across the board. It's just the one goalie. Like, and then like if you're like the backup goalie and you're just kind of sitting there on the bench just like a little turtle. I don't know. I'm a huge fan of like an underdog story. Like I hate Connor McDavid, but Connor McDavid doesn't need one more fan.
Yeah.
He's not going to be like Connor McDavid is not going to feel it if there's like one fan who's not rooting for him, but like your goaltender or that like fourth line person who doesn't get a lot of like acclaim. Having that one person where they're like, you know what? I know that one person is going to root for me. Like that can be a big deal for them.
Yeah, no, it can be. Those jersey checks mean a lot more to us fourth line players than they do to Connor McDavid.
Right.
as he rolls around in his BioSteel money like Scrooge McDuck, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's what I would
but
do.
No, goalies are everything to me. And they're also so weird. Like,
yeah,
you got to be a weird person to sign up to be the person to take 80-mile-per-hour pucks like 30 times a game. That's something's a little bit wrong with you in like a really fun and endearing way.
Well, and it's you got to have that short memory. Got to be able to get over stuff pretty quick, which I feel like kind of goes with a certain type of person, right? You got to be more of an easygoing person to be able to forget after that giant red light has gone on behind you and everybody has just paid attention to the mistake you just made, to just be like, yeah, okay, whatever, I'll keep going. Yeah, they are definitely special people. All the goaltenders that I've interacted with throughout the years, I'm sure you'd say the same thing, RJ.
Oh yeah. No, I immediately think of, of Chris Drieger and kind of how laid back he is. And, talking about like, well, yeah, I want to be a goalie because I sucked as a skater. Like, I just want to do
Yeah.
something where I was halfway decent. Or, Magnus Hellberg just shaking off the fact that he's, been to like 7-8 different teams in the last like year or two. He's like, yeah, it's a journey. You kind of have to have that personality. Like, Maya, what do you think? We've kind of talked about this a little bit already, but like, what do you think it is about goalies that makes them the way, like the personality that makes them the way they are?
It's got to be like something just like ingrained in who they are as like a child, that like they just it's
nature
gotta be
versus nurture goalie edition.
Yeah, I think it's got to be something about who they are as a child, because I just don't. There's got to be something weird about that kid that makes you say, you know what, I'm gonna put you in net and we're gonna shoot stuff at you. And that kid to be like, okay. And it's also just like a little bit of like, I think like just perfectly represent that like weird hockeyness, where like I think hockey's like perfect for me as a fan who's like super superstitious, where like, you gotta like, pet your goalposts when it rings off the bar. I think just the kind of child that's going to do that going to be a great goalie, because they're going to do all those weird things and just have all those little rituals that are going to be like, this is why I am winning, because every time it rings off the crossbar, I'm giving it a little kiss.
Yeah. Was it Patrick Waugh, RJ, who would never touch a painted line with his skates? He would always step over like the blue line, center line, as he would go to and from the bench on and off.
I hadn't heard about that, but that sounds right.
Sounds like a goalie thing.
Except for that, that one time he was playing the puck all the way up ice and took a penalty for passing center. I don't think he made sure he stepped over the lines there. They are some fun folk. Have you thought about stepping in there and trying to take an 80-mile-an-hour shot?
I think I would die immediately. I will say though that I think my toxic trait is I think that I'd be pretty good at being a defenseman.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Any particular
I think that
reason?
I just love goalies so much. Like, I don't know. I just feel like, don't touch my goalie.
Best quality
I don't know.
you could have.
Anytime our defense is like not doing well, I'm just like, I could do better.
Yeah, I would not want to be an opposing forward, trying to get an extra whack in at the goalie with you on the blue line.
No, I'd probably have like 1 million penalty minutes just fighting people over my goalie.
Yeah, no, it's totally understandable there.
Yeah. So I guess like next question, one of the things also that I've been kind of amazed by in doing this is how many fans that we have in the community that are not even from Seattle or even the state of Washington. And that's kind of been your experience, from pretty much this whole time at being a Kraken fan over 2,000 miles away from Seattle. I mean, what has that been like for you? How is it, especially, with those later games? How's it been as a fan from so far away?
Oh, it's rough. It's real hard. So I'm over 2,000 miles away. Most games start for me at 9 p.m. and they go until 11:30. And then on the post games, I haven't done it the past few because I was just like, let me just go to sleep. We never seem to win when it's like a weekend when I can actually just be there for the full time. So yeah, it is hard. I'm exhausted all the time. I have to like structure so much of my sleep schedule around these games. On the other hand, though, like it's never like like if I want to go, my friends are like, "Oh, you want to go out to dinner?" It's like, absolutely, the Kraken game isn't on until 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Like it's not affecting any of that. So it's hard in that sense that like it's like the games are super late. It's also hard to have like all my friends are so far away. Like I have a lot of friends who are in Seattle now. I have a lot of friends, like I have friends in Ohio. I have friends on the East Coast. It's just, I only get to see them like once a year. And so it's like, it's like some is good, some is bad. But yeah, it's just, I think that I'm just tired for 6 months out of the year.
I feel that. I do not envy anybody who has to be a sports fan that far east. Like it's just got to be brutal all the time.
Yeah.
Got to be brutal.
And I do watch basically every game. I think last season I missed probably like 5 games, and I want to say that like the games that I didn't get to watch was like the couple games when I was like in Seattle last October, and like I was unfortunately dealing with the actual blackout. I'm not actually blacked out from games most of the time because of where I am regionally. Yeah, I was actually blacked out for like a game last October. There were a couple games and I was up there for last April that I was blacked out for, and that sucked. But yeah, I watched like every game. I don't miss game. I think I've missed like 1 game just because. But I watch every game.
Yeah,
or I'll watch like the replay.
Yeah, no, you're awesome at it. And then it's talking about the fact that you feel like so far away from everybody, right? And all your friends, all the friends that you've made through this journey is something I can definitely relate to, being where I'm at. I get to see RJ when he decides to come down here and grace us with his presence. And then the trip or two I'll take up there. So I'm very much in the same boat as you, but that's where I feel like the all the community aspects and how awesome and open you've been with everybody, and you always keeping that positive kind of outlook on everything has been really good as far as helping the Kraken build this community, because the bottom line is there are Seattle transplants everywhere, right? Like it's one of those cities that produces people that then go out all across the country. And one of the coolest things about this whole experience for me has been able to connect with people such as yourself who are 2,000 miles away, and we can, connect over this shared love of this team and what's happening, and have this thing, talk about it's a lot, right? An 82 game schedule. It's a lot of nights and lots of lost sleep because of it. But by having it be so regular and having it be such a shared thing, like we're all like constantly in contact with each other through so much of the year, and even into the off season when you've got then the draft for everybody to talk about and free agency, and then when training camp comes around, right? Like it is such this awesome kind of shared connective tissue we all have, and it's so cool.
Yeah. And I think that like in addition to just having all these friends, like I mean, other than my best friend who still lives in there, like I grew up in the Bremerton, like Silverdale area, because I was a Navy kid, and like I hadn't been home for like 9 years, and I was starting to feel really homesick. And now I have like a Space Needle tattoo, and like I want to say like the biggest thing the Kraken gave me was just like home. Like I plan to come home again. I want to try and come home every year, and it's just like I have a reason to go back to this place. And like I think I like knew how much I missed it, but then like I don't know, there's something about flying in. Like every time I fly into Seattle and I'm passing by the Space Needle and now CPA, like I cry. Like I just love it so much. And so it's just like really nice to have that connection to home and to feel like I have a reason to go back there, which is really nice.
Yeah, hey, that's what sports is all about. Like it's that community, it's that love, particularly love of city, right? Like that's a big part of it. And I'm really, really happy that that you found that. Like that's awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And speaking of coming back home and making those trips and how special it is, I do want to hear a little bit about at the end of last season, you had a chance to come out to your first Kraken home game. I got to see little snippets of what that day was like for you. I got to meet you. I was so happy to be able to meet you in person. And I got to, grab my phone out and take some photos of you getting the jersey from Carson Soucy. But just take me through that day a little bit more, just some of your most memorable moments from that day and kind of what it meant to you.
That was the best day of my entire life, and I am a married person. Like I am married.
I was like, that's awesome.
So that was like the end of a week, because I'd gone to Vancouver and I went to go see Joey Decord struggle in Vancouver. And I made a sign, and of course Philip Grubauer, they just didn't put him in the game. It was very weird that they didn't do that for me. But yeah, I went up there and I got to it was like that day started and it was me and my friend Shay, and who came from Ohio. and I got to meet all of my Kraken friends basically at like one time. We got to go to the Kraken store, which was amazing. And so I just got to like hang out with these people that like I really like loved. And then I got to go to the game, and that was amazing because like it was weird. People knew me.
Yeah.
Like people like I think we went to the store, and like Charles recognized me, and he recognized Shay, and he was like, I know both of you. So that was like super cool. And then like seeing like RJ and seeing Caitlin and Michael and everybody that like I'd talked to and had never really gotten to like actually like see in person before was amazing. And then yeah, they were doing this like little contest because it was like the fan appreciation night, and they were like, if you get to I think like the living wall by there's like the first like couple people to get to the living wall, you get to go like you'll win something. And so me and Caitlin got there, and he was like, here's a ticket, you get to go on the ice and get a jersey from a player. And I was like, that's bananas. And so then when we're at the game is we went to warm-ups, and I had a sign for Philip Grubauer that said that I came up with a nickname, and I was like, if you like it, you know, I wanted like a picture. I didn't know like what to ask for because I didn't want to be like, can you have a puck? And he sent a puck over, and so I have a video of me getting a puck from Philip Grubauer, which was like beyond my wildest dreams. They posted me on the Twitter again, beyond my wildest dreams. And it was weird seeing people be so excited for me because I was like, I'm just some lady on Twitter. I don't understand why you people like me this much and are like this happy for me. And then yeah, so like at the end of the game, we got to I didn't actually get to see the win because I think for almost the entire third period I was down in like a tunnel waiting to go onto the ice. And then Carson Suit, like I got to like go on the ice, which was not as slippery as I thought it was going to be. It was actually really crunchy. I thought it was going to be like wet, but it was just like it was like walking on snow, like really hard snow. And then Carson Susie like skated up to me, and he asked me what my name was, and he spelled it right. And then he like took off his jersey and he like signed it and gave it to me. And so then I'm just like on the ice, and it's just like, wow, this is crazy. And then Philip Grubauer was like right next to me. The guy who was they had put us in like numerical order, and the guy who had Grubauer's number, I was like, I'll switch with you. And he was like, I'm not, because he apparently didn't like Susie. But like Grubauer was like right there. So I got to be like, thanks for the puck earlier. And then I don't know, it was just like a wild night. And we got I got like a bunch of signatures, and I got to meet Piper Shaw, which was, she like signed my little flag, and she signed it in like a different place from all the players. She was like, oh no, did I do the wrong thing? And I was like, no, you're Piper Shaw. Like you get to sign it wherever you want to sign it.
Exactly. It
was like I'm so grateful that I got to do that. Like I have like any time now that there's like a what's your fun fact? Like I had the absolute best first season as a hockey fan. Like I literally had only been watching this sport for 6 months, and then I just had just like the coolest night in the world. And I'm just, I don't know, it's just hard to like, it's hard to like quantify how grateful I am that I got to experience that. And there's no way that I can ever top it.
Yeah. No, we were all so happy for you. And I know, trust me, I understand the whole like, you know, weird, like, oh, it's weird people are recognizing me. Weird people are like happy for me, like as I'm experiencing this thing that is, you know, personal to you, right? Like it's kind of like this personal moment. But for a lot of us, it was a shared moment with us just because of what you had come to mean to the community and everything throughout the course of the season. And so we wanted to share in that with you, right? Like we were all just actually happy for you. And it was really cool that it was like, here's this person who really deserves this. And the team is taking care of them. You know what I mean? Like you were actually able to have this kind of fairy tale moment out there and experience all of that for your one chance to come out, because you are 2,000 miles away and it's not like you're getting to go to every game. And so it was just one of those moments where you felt like, you know, the good guy won kind of thing.
It almost felt like when you're like at like a birthday party and it's your birthday and everyone's singing happy birthday and you're like, I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yes.
Like
yes.
Yeah, it was completely surreal. Truly like the absolute best day of my life. Like I'm going to have kids someday, and like I don't know that moment is ever going to like reach the level of awesomeness that entire day was.
Yeah. When you're like, you know, you got all the stuff you're like hanging on the fridge or whatever. And it's like, oh yeah, this is nice or whatever, but it's not trumping, you know, the picture of like getting the puck from Grubauer. Sorry. Like that's just
like I have a puck. I got him to sign the puck later, and it's just like, and I have so much Kraken merch in my house now. Like it's kind of absurd. No. I just got the magnet.
Never too much.
Schedule.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta ask, where's the Susie jersey? What'd you do with it?
So the Susie jersey is currently hanging, kind of like in we have like a shelf in our dining room, and it's got like some like hooks on, so I have it hanging on. I think I'm gonna frame it at some point. I don't know why I was waiting. I think I wasn't like specifically waiting not to frame it so I could take the like I turned 28 and then I took the pictures of my 28 Susie jersey. But I've just kind of been lazy about getting it framed. That wasn't like planned or on purpose.
Now, sorry, this is too odd of a question, but like we had this discussion about the whole, you know, body weight loss, sweat thing. You can't wash a jersey like that. Has that been an issue at all? It
stopped smelling about after like 3 weeks. Like there was a very, it was hanging like right there because that's like my laundry. So it was like hanging like right behind me on my laundry, and it permeated this whole room for about a week and a half. And then it was like, if you came in the back door and you walked close to it, you could smell it. And then it was like, if you went up to it and you put your face to it, you could smell it. And now it doesn't smell like anything at all. It took about 3 weeks for it to just completely stop stinking, but it was strong. It was a very strong smell. And it wasn't pleasant.
Well, that was going to be my next question was, well, did it at least smell good? No. And to clarify what RJ was talking about there was Maya was letting us know about how much a goaltender sweats during the course of an average NHL game. And it's a lot. It's a lot.
Weirdly, I know the person who got the Borgen jersey, and so I was hanging out with him afterwards. Yeah. That one was like, it was more pleasant of a smell. But like I don't know, it's just like, I guess just people just smell different like when they sweat. But like, yeah, Susie's was, kudos to his wife because that was not. And
then like my player ranking that nobody needs.
I know, it's just my bag was smelling, and I was like so worried about like, I just had to like wash everything else because like I couldn't wash this jersey. I didn't want to go get it dry cleaned because I don't get clothes dry cleaned normally, but. Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, just
smell wise.
Just had to air out. Look, it's nothing that hockey parents, hockey siblings haven't been having to put up with for centuries now, right?
Yeah.
And it's
so unfortunately, official ranking. I will say Borgen is above Susie in terms of like what I would have preferred to have, just a little bit. I don't know why. Maybe like Susie played a little bit more that game. I don't know.
He probably did get more ice time.
Probably, yeah, probably. Knowing
Actually, I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know that Borgen played that game.
Yeah. But because you think maybe to throw on something to help out a little bit with the smell, right? Just a quick spray.
I think I sprayed the front of it. I think I sprayed the front of it with Febreze, but not the back where it had.
Yeah, well, I'm saying the players, they should do that for the refs, right? Like you're lined up with those linesmen to take a face off. I'm telling you, if you're the center who like actually sprays some like antiperspirant on or something, so you smell a little nice for them. Bet you they probably cut you a little leeway when it comes to how you take your face off. Just throwing that out there for anybody who's listening. It's something to try. I was just gonna ask you, RJ, now that you're like getting kind of fairly regular locker room access, particularly after practices and everything at KCI. I mean, is it how is it walking into that room? I've never really asked this question, but because we're here already, we might as well right now.
It actually doesn't smell bad at all. Like you'd think there'd be something, there really isn't. I think it's well ventilated, and I realized how well ventilated it is, like something to the outside, when we had the smoke and the fires and everything a few weeks ago, and the air quality was just awful, and you couldn't really smell it or tell at the rest of KCI. But as soon as you walked into the locker room, that was the smokiest place in the whole building. It just smelled like outside. And so it must be well ventilated to the outside, which normally is a good thing. But when you've got the fires, it's there's a downside to it.
Okay, sounds good. Um, yeah, that's some fun stuff there, and yeah, like I said, it was an awesome day for all of us because we all care about all the stuff that you've done for this community throughout it, and the way that you've helped so many, I think, newer fans feel like it can be a safe space, because that's a problem on social media to begin with, and
Yeah.
that's a problem within any sort of genre or kind of niche out there to begin with, and I think hockey is one that has also struggled with that at times. And so having voices like yours that are out there that are not just positive but also very welcoming and accepting, and also going through that same thing at the same time. This is something that RJ and I've talked about, or I talked about when we were on Sasquatch's trivia battle against the Kraken pod, how I was thankful that they were around as kind of this other podcast that fans like you could go to and experience being a new fan with somebody, because I do think that that's important. Nobody wants to walk into the room where everybody knows everything already and they're all experienced and you're the new person, right? And I think that all the work or fun that you had on social media, I think, really helped a lot of people, like probably more than through that journey.
Yeah, and it's actually, I mean, I do want to thank y'all, if only because I'm a little bit petty, but I do respect y'all because I came in as a brand new hockey fan, and y'all are very validating for me. Because I think that there's always this fear of like, I mean, I know that like Grubauer wasn't perfect last year. I think we're all aware that he wasn't perfect, but he wasn't that bad. He wasn't as bad as like the stats would show you that he's bad. And it's very validating when like I go on like the post game lives and I'm like, I feel like I'm not seeing like, I don't feel like the stats are telling the whole story. And like y'all have a lot more hockey knowledge than me. And so I know that if I'm kind of agreeing with y'all, I'm probably on the right track. And I do feel like I mostly agree with y'all in terms of like kind of the general like aura around the team and how they're playing. And so it is very like validating for me, because I think that there's sometimes people be like, oh, like you're just saying this because like you just really love Grubauer. And it's just like, no, Emerald City Hockey also said something very similar. And Dylan was a scout, so like I know that I'm not insane.
See, there we go. Yeah, no, it's cool, and that's kind of one of the reasons that I kind of agreed to sign on with RJ and do a lot of this, was the opportunity that it was going to be a new market and it was going to be a lot of new fans. And one of the things that I do love doing is kind of teaching about the game and being able to see that kind of like light and joy that new people have when they find the game, because I grew up in it, right? Like my parents were fans before me, so before I can even remember, I was watching hockey. I was around it. I wanted to learn to skate as soon as possible, and I did, like the week I turned 3. You know what I mean? And so I don't remember having that excitement of when you're new to the sport and you're finding all of these things and you're getting to see how special it is, because it was just kind of always around me. And so I really have appreciated being able to kind of experience that through people like yourself. It's kind of been fun for me.
Yeah, it's been a blast. I cannot believe how much I love this sport, especially because I'm like a little bit on like a football hiatus, because I'm a big proponent of, if it's making you feel bad feelings, you can walk away. Yeah. And so hopefully the people have been seeing me, because people will be like, oh, I'm like rooting for the Saints, and I'm like, I'm not, I'm doing something else today. But like, and it's not even, I don't even know why, because it's not the losing, because I'm clearly not opposed to being a fan of a team that's losing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you made it through that season with the Kraken, you're fine there.
But yeah, I want to be like happy and positive, and
yes,
all the, and I think, and also just like being as welcoming as possible. And I just want to be like a positive fan base, because it's more fun when we're just like, yeah, we're losing, but like look at all these fun memes we're making about Yanni Gourde's name, and like
exactly.
Yeah,
I agree with you 1,000%. Here at the end, I'm gonna kind of hand it over to you. Is there anything that you wanna discuss? Any topics you have, questions you got for RJ and I? Could be about hockey, could be about the Kraken, could be about whatever.
How
Floor
did
is yours.
y'all meet? Like, you guys have been friends since like you were children, and how did you start as like hockey friends, or did you just both converge into being hockey friends?
Yeah. So do you want to take this, RJ, or you want?
Should I tell the fun origin story?
You could tell that one. Yeah. Let me prime it first with that.
Yeah.
We met because we were both being homeschooled at the time, and so we met through a homeschooling community. And
this was in middle school, by the way.
Yeah, this would be middle school age. I don't remember exactly how old we were. You probably do. But that's like the crux of it. And in like Southern California, especially, like if you're anywhere and you find out that other person's also a hockey fan, it's just like, well, okay, we're friends now because we like have to be. It's like this whole like us against the world kind of mentality that you have, and it's like, okay, even if we like maybe don't end up liking each other, we at least have this, and we're gonna be like talking to each other at all of these social gatherings now because of it. You know what I mean? Like there's just that unspoken bond there, and so that's I think what initially drew us to each other, and then from there things kind of sprouted.
Yeah. I mean, we got along. I think you put this in one of my birthday cards a few, like in high school age or whatever, like, and then we met. And then a few years later, we realized we were like best friends.
Yeah.
It kind of happened like that. And I'll real quick just tell kind of the funny little story of like the first real like memory I remember having, with Dylan, is that we were at in this what's it
Reflections
called?
It was
Reflections. Yes. There was this, it was like an art contest for the district that they put on, and you could enter your different art pieces, and my mom had made me enter one because like, oh, it'll look good on your college application. And I know Dylan had entered one as well, and our moms were there to volunteer to help set everything up early. And so Dylan and I were there, and we were hanging out, and we were talking, and some of the other people started to arrive, and I let it be known to Dylan that I thought there was this girl over there that I thought was kind of cute. And
big mistake. Big mistake right there. Never do that one.
Yeah. So yeah, I would learn the big mistake coming up. So I told him that, and he's like, well, you should go talk to her. I'm like, no, I can't go talk to her. I'm super awkward. I don't know. I've never met her before. And he's like, no. Come here. I got you. Like, yeah, I got an idea here. We'll go over together. I'm like, are you sure about this? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, fine. So we walk up to her, and he says, hey, my friend RJ has something to tell you. And I'm like, I don't remember what I actually said. To this day, I don't remember what I said. It was nothing or something. Yeah, that didn't help me at all. Yes. And so then we just turn around and leave. She thinks I'm really weird. And I turned to him, I'm like, what the hell was that? And he said, I don't know. I thought you'd come up with something good.
I was going to say, and if that doesn't sum up the two of us, I don't know what else does.
Yep.
I will say that I think that like every like duo like podcast is like a really like calm, focused straight man, and then chaos goblin. Yeah. Dylan, you're the chaos goblin for sure.
I own that all day, every day. I'll own that one.
I will say, when I was in like 10th grade, I had a crush on the guy. I'd never talked to him before. He went to my school. I had a crush on him. And I decided one day that I'm going to go up and I'm going to introduce myself to him. And so I went up to him, and I was like, I'm Maya. And he was like, what's that? What his name was? And I was like, I know. And then I said, I'm going to go throw up now. And then I just walked away, and I left, and I got on the bus, and I went home.
Well, see, RJ could have been
That's
worse.
What I should. Yeah.
You could have said like, hey, at least you didn't do that. That is one of those moments where like I will wake up in a cold sweat at like 2 a.m. and I'll be like, why did I say that?
Yeah. I think we've all had our share of those types of things. For sure.
At least you didn't tell him up and then immediately walk away and never talk to her ever again.
Yeah. Although we might have never talked to her again.
Yeah, well, I never talked to her again. I never talked to her ever again.
Yeah.
I think she ended up going to the same college as I did, and like I saw her around, and I'm like, nope, I'm not going to approaching her.
That ship sailed.
Yeah,
for sure.
But yes, that's the epic origin story for RJ and Dylan.
That's a pretty good It's a pretty good
it's a pretty good one.
It's a pretty good origin story.
Yeah. Anything else that you got? Any other questions?
I think that was the only question that I've had. It's just like, how did y'all hold to like scouting? Because like, it's one of those things where it's just like you look at other adults and you're like, I feel like you're a lot more advanced in life than I am, and you've been like a whole hockey scout, and now you own like essentially like a media company. And then I find out that we're the same age, and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing with myself, because
No, trust me, I still feel that way about most other people. Anybody with like a more like stable career definitely feel that way, like yourself probably, because this has been such a journey kind of starting it, right? Anybody who's been through a startup can kind of understand the struggles and the stresses that exist and come about from it. But I started the scouting thing at 18. Going through high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do, as most people do, right? But I knew that I loved hockey, and so I was trying to think of like jobs I could do within hockey, and I stumbled across Sports Management Worldwide, which I mentioned earlier, and I think actually your parents had found it because we had done the 2010 draft conference, you and I, back when we were still in high school, and so when it was close to my 18th birthday, that kind of semester before, senior year, I took their GM and scouting course, and I kind of learned some of the ins and outs of things. And during that, they have you go out and like try to interview people within the industry. And one of the people that I had interviewed for that was the general manager and head coach of the Portland Winterhawks. And the SMWW was based out of Portland, so they kind of had a relationship already with them. And so I went to their conference for the NHL draft in 2013, about a month after I turned 18. Flew out to New York for that one, and that general manager was there, Mike Johnston, and I was able to talk with him. And I said, okay, I reintroduced myself in person this time because I had interviewed him through email and stuff. And we talked, and I said, hey, do you have a California area scout that I could shadow and just kind of like learn from a little bit? And he was like, oh yeah, sure. Email me like after all this, because I'm super busy these next couple days. Email me in a couple days when we all get back to where we're at, and I'll hook you up. Like we could totally set something up. And so I email him, and then he emails me back, and he goes, yeah, we don't have one, so do you want to just do it? I was like, it was probably a little more professional than that, but that was like the gist of it. And it was like, yeah, sure, I guess. And so I start going out to the rinks and watching everybody, and kind of get like the first half of the season I spent compiling this like top 10 sheet for him, and then I sent it to him, and he was like, thanks. And then a couple days later I get okay, so I showed this to like my scouting department and the assistant GM, and they say that you're doing good work, so you're just going to be talking with them now, and you're like just a part you're just a part of this now, and that's what we do. And it was just like, okay, like here we go. That's like kind of how it started. And it wasn't, I'll tell everybody right now, CHL major junior level scouting, it is not like this incredible career. It's basically it's part-time pay, and especially in a place like California, you're driving around everywhere all the time. You're in your car the entire weekend. It can be very lonely. I was lucky enough, like there would be times, parents would tag along with me or something, just to keep me company, keep me up, especially if the early mornings, had to head out at like 4:30 in the morning, something like that. But it was still such a rewarding experience. I got to meet so many people. That guy, Mike Johnson, ends up going to the Pittsburgh Penguins to become their head coach. I remember being at your house, RJ. He goes to be the Pittsburgh Penguins head coach, and a couple months later he sends me an email because I had congratulated him, and he was going through all those old emails while he was the Penguins head coach. And I remember being at your house, RJ, and just like checking my emails on my phone, just being like, oh, I just got an email from the head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And it's just like, wow, it's like so cool.
That's amazing.
And
that's insane.
So I got to meet lots of cool people. I got to do lots of cool things. Got to like real inside WHL stuff about like people stealing bananas from me at the combine and stuff that nobody knows who these people are really, but they felt so like cool within that little sphere. But yeah, that's what it was, and I'm very thankful for the time I had doing it. And then, as all things happen in sports, as they say, you haven't worked in sports until you've been fired, and there's been like a regime change, and that's what happened in Portland. And I decided to take that opportunity to go back to school at that point. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
RJ, what did you do before you were RJ of Emerald City Hockey?
Well, excuse me, I was basically trying to figure out what the heck I wanted to do with my life. I went to college, I got a degree in economics, but
Gross.
yeah,
Economics.
Yeah.
Mr. Spreadsheet over here. Come on.
Yeah, come on. I think it's on brand.
Expect a photography major or something?
I don't know. You just seem so much cooler than like an econ major.
No. This is who I am. But yeah, I was still trying to figure stuff out. I kind of dabbled around, maybe like commercial real estate is what I wanted to do. I was thinking about maybe going to law school. And then I was living up in San Jose with my girlfriend, and then I didn't have a job at that point. And then COVID hit, and I had planned to go visit my parents for a week. And then that week turned into 10 months because we couldn't go back. And I kind of figured, I'm like, what can I do during this time, right? You can't really go out and kind of get a job in the same way. So I heard, there's this expansion team coming in Seattle, and yeah, it's a year and a half away, but Dylan and I had kind of had this, this dream of maybe one day covering a team, or, we'd tried a couple, ill-fated ventures at that, or podcasting, things like that, when we were in high school. And yeah, just kind of came up with this like really loose idea of maybe I could do something, but it was something I could do during that time. And so, yeah, I started ECH and just started writing about whatever I could. And then realized that if I was going to really do it for real and go for it, I had to be up here. And so, I made that decision to move up and, packed everything into my car and just moved to a city I had never been to cover a team that didn't exist yet. So
that's actually pretty dope to like,
yeah,
that's actually very, very cool. I want to be RJ when I grow up.
Yeah, I know, right? It was pretty ballsy. It was. Gotta say.
I mean, hey, it worked out. Like it doesn't seem like you've only been doing this for a year.
In ways that I never, would have imagined. Like I didn't, just didn't picture this all happening. And when you talk about like having, your life put together and having like a plan and things go in that way, like we didn't think we were going to be media. Like I think might have told this story before, but day one of training camp, I was just there as a fan. I bought a ticket, and I bought tickets for the first 2 days, and that's it, because you can only get 2 tickets. And then day one, I go over and talk to some of the media people who like thankfully recognized me from social media and whatnot. And I owe so much to Erica Ayala. I'm sure you know who she is, from Locked On Kraken, because I met her, and she said, that she enjoyed my coverage and everything. And she's like, hey, let me give you a little tip. Tomorrow, if you're going to be here tomorrow, just try going through the media entrance. Just see what happens. I'm like, no, you're not serious, right? She's like, yeah, just try it. I'm like, no, just try it. Trust me. So the next day I went in and I walked through the media entrance. I said, I'm RJ from Emerald City Hockey. And person at the laptop typed out, looked up at me, and like, okay. And they wrote me a credential. And then I was media. Wow. And I just kept showing up the next day and the next day and the next day until they knew who I was.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's like a super cool story. Just fake it till you make it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all I was trying to do, with the girl in middle school. Like, like I was just trying to set you up for moments like this later on.
Just full circle moment. You're just like, this is, I've been training you your whole life for this moment.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I can see that I've grown and developed a little bit since that time, and maybe I'm a better version of myself now than I was at that reflections contest.
Yes.
Imagine if you hadn't had that moment of failure, where you'd be now.
Yeah.
Probably still here. Probably still here, blending into the wall behind you.
I know. It just gets worse and worse as the stream goes on. Every time my face is the same color as the wall.
Do you have like a light in front of you?
I have a ring light here, but it just lights me up even more. I mean, the lights are on here. It's Yeah, I gotta figure.
I've been
this one
telling
out.
him he needs to like do like makeup. He needs some sort of foundation and stuff. Just try to, you know what I mean? Either that or
Talk to the Root Sports makeup people.
A spray tan, something maybe.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna get a regular tan up there. That's not gonna work, especially not in November.
No,
Nope,
definitely
For
not.
sure.
Not what's up. Okay, wow, like we got to that hour pretty quick. I was having a good time. Is there anything else you wanna ask, hang out, talk about, or give a shout out to?
Yeah.
I think that those were. I think that was my. I don't know who I would give a shout out to other than like
Anyone you want.
Doc the cat.
Yeah, Doc, you got okay. You have to shout out.
Shout out to Doc for only walking in front of the screen like the one time. He did scratch my couch, so I don't know that I should be giving him a shout out. I didn't know what to do in that moment because I was like, I can't yell at him right now because it'll mess up
No.
the sound.
We would understand. We've all had pets. We understand. No, I mean, shout out to Doc for putting up with the Carson Soucy jersey stench for 3 months.
Yeah, I don't know that it bothered him. I think he was. I mean, it was too high for him probably to reach, but
it all hung in the air above him.
Yeah,
to just deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. I don't know. I think shout out to just like the whole like Kraken community, everybody I've met on Twitter. I do tweet basically every thought that I've ever had, and so shout out to all those people. Shout out to my cousins who don't care about hockey for not muting me, because sometimes they'll comment on like my tweets that are not about hockey, and I'm like, oh, you still see my tweets? Sometimes
that's a big one. I've lost most of my friends from school because of that on Twitter. They're just like, sorry, dude, can't be here for this.
Yeah,
yeah, it's all hockey. I don't talk about anything else, but
yeah,
I guess it's working for me.
I'd say it was. Like I said, we're so happy to have you around and have you be part of this community and all the awesome stuff that you've done throughout it. Like I said, being that accepting and nice and fun personality out there as the team was going through, particularly everything last season. Like it was just so refreshing and nice. Like I would, I'd see like one of your tweets and I just knew, okay, everything's going to be okay here for a moment. You know what I mean? As I go through, or like you in the post game live chat, it was like, okay, this one it's going to be okay. Like I can breathe easy for a moment. You know what I mean? And so for that, I say thank you.
Well, thank y'all for creating like a good community. Like it's been nice. I think I found like I'm welcoming to everyone, but it is I have felt very welcomed, and it's been very nice to have like okay, I know that my friends. I do have one friend that I've gotten into hockey. He's a Rangers fan. I don't know that was a good choice because I don't think your first team should be good. Yeah. I don't think you should just come out the gate with like an Igor Shesterkin as your goalie. But it is nice that I at least have some outlet for all of the like crazy constant hockey thoughts that I have. And I know that y'all are like cultivating a really positive community that can commiserate in a constructive way.
Yeah, that's what it's about. Those ECH
therapy
City
therapy, that's what it's for.
That's all what it's about. All right then I think that's going to do it for this episode of Release the Fans. Just a reminder for everybody, if you enjoyed listening to this, if you want to be a part of it, got to check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/Emerald City Hockey. All Terror of the Deep tier patrons are put into that random lottery at the beginning of the month. This could very well be you in the future. So definitely check that out. Link in the description below. But for RJ, Maya, and myself, we're going to call it for this episode of Release the Fans. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you all next time.